All right, guys, welcome to Rukshan on X. And today I've got a special guest here with me, Monica Smit, joining us. And look, it's a bit different than what I normally do on this show, guys, because I'm normally just by myself talking about the news stories of the day. But we've got Monica here to discuss an event that she has coming up that is important, I think, for Australians to hear about, as well as we might touch on some other topics as well that are pertinent to what's happening in our country right now. Monica, great to have you on the show. Hope you can hear me and good to see you.
Yep, it's always good to see you, Rukshan. Thanks for letting me come onto your usually solo show.
Yeah, nah, like it's good to see you like and chat with you like this because I've known you now for a long time since the COVID days, and we've met at different events and different things which are happening in our country. And right now, you're dealing with an issue, which is I think something that's been widely discussed around Australia and especially online, and that is the issue of mass immigration that's impacting many people in different ways and sometimes tearing at the fabric of our social cohesion as well. So what are you planning to do around this and what's the event that you got coming up?
Yeah, I think the mass immigration topic really came on us almost like an avalanche. I think we all knew that there was a problem, but I didn't think we knew that a lot of Australians shared these concerns as well. And I think watching what's happening in the UK and seeing what Tommy Robinson has had to deal with, and seeing just how fast it's becoming a much bigger problem in the UK, I think Australians saw a lot of that content and thought, oh my goodness, it's not that bad here yet, but we don't want to become like the UK. And I think that's where the sentiment really started. But what I didn't expect as well is that Australians had an appetite to march again. Since COVID, people have continued to try to have events, and a lot of them have failed. And what August 31st showed all of Australia is that Australians had the appetite to march again. And that was really beautiful to see and was quite unexpected. I had kind of lost a bit of faith in protests and marches at that point, and to
Yep.
see that was really inspiring. So a team of us have started a new movement called Put Australia First, and I think that we are the first pro-Australia movement that is professional, has the backing of senators like Jacinta Price and One Nation, and we are, our conversation points, our mission is very, I guess you could say, moderate and mainstream, and we are absolutely adamant and clear and not ashamed to say that we will be kicking Nazis out if they come. And, we get a lot of trolling for that, but I just don't care. I draw the line there. You can be pro-Australian without being a Nazi. And those types of groups are actually making the mass immigration concerns silent. They're silencing the genuine
Just to
concerns.
touch on that, one of the criticisms I've seen of this march that you're planning to do is that it's on the back of the March for Australia rally. And look, there's been a lot of discussions around that, especially on the rally that happened on August the 31st. And a lot of different viewpoints. I know that you yourself had a lot of different views about that leading up to the march and even after the march. And myself as well, I've discussed it a lot and I've even commented on your social media posts. Do you think this there is a fracture of Australian movement? Because I do see that, people on that side of the fence are saying, don't attend this march. And other people are saying, well, don't attend the other march. So there is a fracturing, isn't there, really, of this kind of movement as well?
Yeah, look, it's quite messy out there on this particular topic. And before August 31st, first I never told anyone not to attend, though. That's the difference. And neither did you, and neither did most of the people that were voicing concerns about the people organising the August 31st or October 19th. What you'll notice is people like me never attacked a single person, and we never told people not to go, but we just informed them about the potential risks that would be associated with it. Now, about a week out from the event, August 31st, what I noticed online is that the organic momentum of the Australian people far outweighed the people organising it. And the changing moment for me was I was on the phone to a couple of mine that are friends, husband and wife, and she has never been to a protest during COVID or anything. And she was going to August 31st. And the husband said to me, Monica, I don't even know who's organising those. I don't care.
Yep.
I'm going because they don't know the politics behind it, or
Yeah.
they don't care about
They're
that.
not, they're, not- they're not in that
yeah.
world. Yeah.
No. So when I noticed that, I figured, well, there's safety in numbers. So let's get as many people there as possible and let's see what happened. But actually, everything that you and I were saying, informing people, which is a public service announcement in my opinion, everything that we said happened. In fact, it was even worse in some aspects.
Yeah, look, I mean, I just want to jump in here and just say, I think there's a responsibility for those of us that do know these things, where especially, for me, I was someone from the very start that said I'm going to be marching on that day. Like, I'm very excited that there's a march for Australia, because we've seen so many anti-Australian marches. We've seen so many marches where they're, burning the Australian flag and doing these things. So yes, as a proud Australian, I'm very, excited and happy to be amongst other Australians and marching for the country. Like, I was very pro marching for the country. But, when I start seeing, groups like the NSN putting out statements saying that how they're running the show in the background, those are concerning. And I think there is a public responsibility to let the public know that these are the people who are claiming organizational credit for the event. Because at the end of the day, there are sometimes consequences to being involved in these type of movements, whether it's, people bringing their families, bringing their children, and you do have violence sometimes, as we did see in Melbourne, for instance, during that march. So, for people like yourself, Monica, I found no issue whatsoever with people online who are involved in the space informing people that follow them that this is happening, because that is you don't want to have Australians deceived. This whole idea that everyone should just be deceived and we should deceive our fellow Australians to attending something where they might get smeared, I think is not the path forward. We need to be transparent. We need to be honest. And I think that's kind of what you're trying to do with Put Australia First.
Well, the thing is, firstly, if you want to hold a Nazi event, I completely respect your right to do that. It's freedom of speech. People have the choice then to either attend or look from the sidelines. But when you deceive the audience and you tell them it's not a Nazi rally, but then in Sydney and Melbourne, the Nazis were literally leading the rally in uniform, holding the front banner, then in Sydney and Melbourne, they both got a stage. There is no such thing as an open mic at a huge rally. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. It wasn't real. It was all staged. And to be honest, I don't care what people say about that. If you think that there was an open mic, then you haven't been involved in enough protest to understand. Imagine opening a mic to 20,000 people. It doesn't happen. It's never happened. There was three NSN people with a prepared speech, mic'd up, ready to go. So the thing is, like I said, I respect people's right to have whatever kind of rally they want. But when people go to a rally, and what happened in Melbourne is that many well-intentioned protest attendees were in the rally, but they were so far back, they couldn't see who was speaking. But if people were chanting and cheering at the front of the stage, the rest of the crowd just follows along, and they're cheering and they're happy, they're in that mood, and then they go home and they see the footage and they realise that they were cheering on Thomas Sowell, whatever. I mean, if that was me, I would be mortified, So be honest with the people, and then you can hold whatever rally you want. For example, the Queensland rallies were great. I think that they were the showcase of, the way that it should be done.
There were examples. I mean, even within Melbourne and stuff, when I saw the majority of the people, like you said, had no idea about the organisers and all these kind of things. They were there because they wanted to march for Australia, and there was this appetite for it. But you're right. Like, as soon as you start deceiving people, and then the people go home and they see that they've been deceived, then their appetite for that might change. And that's what the real worry here is, because when you're building a movement for Australia, it's really important to define what that exactly is. And like you said, I have no problem with a white supremacist NSN style march. Like, tell people that it's a whites only march. Only white people can come. Don't come if you're not white, and don't come if you don't support a white Australia only. and have the march. Like, I support their free speech ability to do that. Just do it. But if your whole stick is to, and we heard in the recordings of their X Spaces and stuff, is to, trick people into coming, but it's really about white Australia, and we're going to use just the fact that other people are coming for our numbers and the optics of it, then you're just deceiving people, and it doesn't really even represent your movement. So I think that's where the problem lies, and I think that's why maybe the second march fizzled out a little bit. And even I think,
and I want to put on record as well, because a lot of people online, I don't know if this is real people or not, you never know, especially on X, but they say, oh, you're just following the mainstream media narrative that patriots and people who love Australia are racist Nazis. I'm like, no. I'm not using the mainstream media definition of Nazi. I'm using the people who self-proclaim themselves as Nazis.
Yeah, that's an important distinction. I'm not
talking about the attendees. I'm not talking about the attendees, okay? 99.5% of the attendees are patriot Australians who are not racist Nazis. So I just want to put that on record, because sometimes people think that I'm talking about them. I'm not talking about them.
Yeah, and that's true, because they are self-identified Nazis and National Socialist Network, and they idolize Hitler, and they're kind of carrying around Mein Kampf and doing all this hand signals and things like this. This is who they are. They are outwardly, openly this. This is who they say they are. To deny that and pretend that that's not who they are is just silly, because they are literally to your face telling you that this is who we are. They're very honest about who they are, which is, I think, to their credit, they're at least honest about who they are and their intentions.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the mainstream media framing, I personally believe it's important that if you're building a movement, especially around an issue like this, where at the end of the day, yes, you can hold marches, yes, you can have lots of people turning up, but the real change happens at a policy level, at a government level. And, August 31st, for all the issues that we had with that, afterwards, it did actually spark a bit of a national debate. At least politicians were talking about the thing. And that's really what you want to do, but you want to make it so that they can support the cause. Talking about it is not enough. And a lot of the talking was around condemnation and around, where do you stand on the Nazis and things like this. So the whole message gets lost. So I think it is very important that if you're creating a movement like this, to frame it in a way where it's palatable to the media. Unfortunately, as much as we don't like the MSM and the mainstream media, the message has to get out to the masses. People that are watching at home have to see that there's people like them, ordinary people who are out there marching, not Nazis, whatever, that are fed up with what's happening when it comes to this immigration issue, for instance, and then get on board with that, because they're like, okay, we can also support this. And then the snowball effect of that is that politicians and policymakers might have to start taking things more seriously. So I think, what you've done with your particular march that you're planning, Put Australia First, those rallies that are happening, I think, in Melbourne and Sydney, you've tried to get politicians at a higher level involved very early on. How's that going?
Yeah, so we had Jacinta, and maybe go to the About page if you can.
Yep.
Because it's really important that we've, so those 3 points just there, immigration is obviously a problem. But, obviously if we listed all the problems, we'd have 20 of them. But we've chosen three points. So immigration reform, affordable electricity, yes, and also freedom from mandatory digital ID. I think these are three of the biggest talking points at the moment. And the reason why we've broadened the topics as well is because we want politicians to get involved, because, I don't like every politician, but just like you said, this is a political issue, and to deny that it is ridiculous. Then we're just going to be running around the streets for the next 20 years getting nothing done. Just like I don't like mainstream media sometimes, just like you said. We have to find a way to work with these people. So we had Jacinta Price booked in to speak in Sydney, but unfortunately something came up. But she supports the rally openly. She openly posted about it, and that was a huge endorsement for us. We also had Senator Sean Bell, which is a One Nation senator, actually talk about our rally in Parliament, which is another huge endorsement. And I can't speak for all the politicians, but I doubt that a lot of them would feel comfortable endorsing the other rallies because of the questionable things that we just discussed. So what Put Australia First is trying to be is, I guess you could call, a safe space for everyday everyday Australians to voice their concerns and so that it is as clean as possible. So it's not as easy for the mainstream media to discredit us, because it was so easy for them to discredit the other ones. I mean, there was content coming out of your ears, you know. But with us, you know, I've never said anything like that because, well, I don't believe anything like that.
But the counter that I hear to that, what you're saying, and I actually agree with what you're saying, but the counter to that I'm hearing from the other side of these marches is that, well, we just need a Australia First movement, which is powered by the people. To hell with the media, to hell with politicians. If enough of us show up on the streets for these marches, then something will happen. Do you think that that's how it works? Do you think that's going to be the case? Like, let's say
I think it's a balance. I think it has to be a balance. You need the numbers, but you also need to work with the people that actually have the power to make change. We don't have the power as individuals, and we also don't have the appetite to protest every weekend like the Free Palestine people do. We have jobs and families and stuff, so we don't have enough people to keep marching every bloody weekend. So I don't see any other option than to work with the people that actually have the power. The only other thing is, if things get so bad that people can't afford food, like en masse, then sure, if we have nothing to live for, then we can go to the Governor General's house and we can live on the lawns until they listen to us, sure. But that's just not a reality that's going to happen tomorrow. So, you know, I think if we can march every 2 months or so and just keep the energy up until things get worse, and maybe we can grow. And to be honest, with the other marches, like the other brands or whatever you want to call it, I say the more the merrier. You know, give people options. Some people will go to all of them, some people will go to one of them. And the way I see it is, nobody owns the streets. This is still somewhat of a democracy. So anyone can have an event, and if people turn up, great. If people don't, then that's fine. Like, it's not a competition for me. We're not trying to steal attention away from anybody else. We're just trying to offer something, and we're offering something just completely different. Our speakers are completely new to the freedom movement.
That's what I wanted to actually get to next. You know? I might jump to that now, because I have seen a bit of I don't know.
Slack.
I don't know. Yeah, a bit of controversy around your speakers, and even false information put out there with like altered banners and things like this as well.
Yeah.
So your speaker list. Let me just bring up the one from Sydney, for instance.
Or you could just go to the speakers page on the website too.
Oh, speakers page on the website. Okay, cool. Let me do that. That might be easier. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Easier. So yeah, tell me a little bit about the speakers, and I'll ask you some questions.
Where do you want to start? Because so many people hate Tommy Robinson because apparently he's a Zionist shill. But you know what? I just hate it when people slag him off, because what he's been doing for the last 12 years, going to prison, losing his marriage, what he's gone through. Honestly, there is nobody in the world that I know of that has fought so hard against extremist Islam and mass immigration. And if you want to slag him off, I don't want to bar of you. You can ask questions. Obviously, anyone can ask questions. It's fine.
I was there in London for his march, and what I saw firsthand was that, you know, no one was thinking about these Zionist things and all this nonsense. There were Brits there, Englishmen, all from around the UK, and even people come back from around the world. They're supporting the singular cause of British national identity, as well as marching against things like mass immigration. And they see Tommy Robinson not in the way that he's portrayed online. Like, he is almost a folk hero. Like, there's no politicians that could have drawn the type of numbers that he drew for that crowd. So I think to have a headline speaker like that talking in Australia, I think just gives us a bit of perspective, because I know I've seen a lot of criticism, Monica, that he's, why are you bringing a foreign speaker to march for Australia? Do you want to answer that question?
I do. I mean, he is the number one anti-mass immigration profile in the world. And I saw the pictures from his rally in London, 3 million people or something like that, the biggest rally London has ever seen. And I don't care what country he's from. I want his energy there, because it's exactly what we're trying to fight for, but here. And his footage, his content, what's happened to him in the UK is really preparing us for what could happen here. That's the way I see it. And the UK is like our big brother, let's be honest. So I think it's completely relevant, but at the same time, I do understand why people might have criticisms of that. But that's my
Well,
explanation
I mean,
anyway.
to that, I was at the Tommy rally, and a lot of the speakers were actually international speakers. So even within the
Yeah.
UK, when they were discussing this issue, what Tommy had was a lot of people that had come from different countries in Europe, facing a similar type of issue, a similar type of crisis in their country, speaking of their experience to encourage, the people in the UK to also, rise up and make this a political issue in their country. So I think it works to have people that have experienced the dramas that comes with uncontrolled mass immigration, like the UK is doing, and we're seeing it. That we have the hindsight to see it. It's in the future. We're kind of getting to see what happens, right? So I think
Yep.
it does add a lot of weight to the march itself, and also the fact that he is someone, like you said, he's the central point of a lot of this discussion. The people that were backing him in these marches, people like Elon Musk. So to think that we would not have an opportunity to hear from someone like Tommy because he's like a Zionist, whatever people are saying, is just complete nonsense. So I think it's rubbish, and I've seen him firsthand, really elevate the people of the UK to stand up and fight for things which are important to them.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of looked past the fact that I was giving the mainstream media a talking point to discredit the event because of his past, whatever. But anyway, that happened. I was like, oh, I didn't even think about those points. But anyway, here we are. So the other speakers, so most people know Lyle Shelton. He's the leader of the Family First Party. They have no seats in Parliament. However, he's looking pretty good to get a seat in the next New South Wales government, apparently. We have Stuart Bonds, who is with One Nation, also doesn't have a seat, but ran in the last election and will be running in the next one as well. And then we have Edwin, who is a completely new up-and-coming person. And he's got a very professional studio. He's got a professional... all his social media is very professional. You can tell that he's just starting, but he has a bright future ahead of him, in my opinion. And he runs a business with 500 employees. Okay, this is a legitimate businessman who is supporting Australia with his tax money, and supplying 500 jobs to people. Yeah. And I'm really excited with this event to bring new faces to the public, because a lot of our past protests, Rukshan, you've been at most of them, they were about anti-lockdown and anti-vaccination and this. And to be honest, we've heard it all from those people, and it seems like it's the same people talking over and over again. And I love many of them, including myself. I'm not speaking at this event. I'm not speaking at this event because everyone's heard what I have to say, Yes. I want new people. And so we've got him, we've got Ali, and we've got Lachlan. They're both new faces. Lachlan is a young man from Brisbane. His Instagram page went from 0 to 28,000 in 3 weeks. So he's obviously got something that the Australian people like. Yep. And he's doing street interviews. He's very level-headed. And Ali just makes content as well. And he's, got 20,000 or so. And I know people have slagged me off. Oh, I don't know these people. Okay. So now you do. Here they are. I'm introducing you to them. So I love that about our event.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think this whole idea of getting the same people to speak all the time, I get it. Like, you hear the same messages, and people go home and it's like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. But I think to introduce new blood, and also to build a movement of something of this magnitude that you want to. I don't think this is a short-term thing, to be completely honest. I think this is something that builds up over the next few years, leading into the federal election, and it's something that you want to craft and create and bring in new voices and even make it so that other people might want to take part and speak as well, because you want to hear from more everyday people, from more Australians, and like you have on this particular march, it's very diverse. Now, one of the things that I saw with the other previous march is that they did have some speakers who were of a different background, and they weren't received so well in some instances, whether I don't know what the reasons for that particularly were. Is this a concern for you? Because obviously, one of the things, as something that I know very personally, being someone who is not a white Australian, to talk about immigration for me is it's not hard for me to talk about it because I understand from a policy point of view why it's bad for the country. But a lot of people will look at me and be like, Rukshan, you're also a part of the problem. So is that something that you are aware of or your organization is aware of when you're organizing this? Because there is a racial element to this, isn't there? It's just there.
So I want to ask you, were you born in Australia?
No,
No. So how old were you when you came here?
I was probably like, 4, 5, something like this in that age bracket.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my 4 older brothers and sisters were all born in Canada. My dad's Dutch, my mum's Canadian. So they came here, and a year later they had me. So I was a welcome to Australia gift, if you know what I mean. Not wanted, but that's besides the point. But anyway, the point is I'm almost as much as an immigrant as you by 5 years in terms of I was just born here a year. The only reason why nobody questions the fact that I'm an Australian is because of the colour of my skin. And I just think that that's ridiculous because you can't compare patriotism. But if I was to compare patriotism, I think that you and I are probably on the same level. But the fact that I'm white, I'm allowed to be an Australian patriot, but you're not, that is racist. That is just point blank racist. Now, in terms of the potential heckling in the crowd, I will put everybody on notice.
No, I don't think that's I'm not saying that's an issue. Like, I don't think that's something you can police. But I'm just saying, like, there is I just want your opinions. Yeah, you probably could, but your opinions of the racial element of this, like that you kind of expressed it there, and I agree with you. Like, for me, for instance, like there is an element of not being wanted to take part in this type of movement because I'm seen as a problem. So I think when I look at these guys like Ali and Edwin that you've got speaking, I do see them as being even extra brave for being there and speaking and saying what they want to say about the country. And I know it sounds it sounds counter because even for white Australians, it's hard to express these ideas. But in this environment itself, to have people of different backgrounds, different ethnicities who are Australian speaking out as well, I think that's really important. And I think that's where the actual change can potentially happen because, again, this is a thing where not all white people, as far as I understand, Monica, you can correct me if I'm wrong, not all white people are on the same page when it comes to immigration. A lot of the issues that we're talking about with immigration are laws or policies that were supported or passed in various ways by white Australian people throughout decades. Even to today, a lot of people that vote Labor or for the Greens explicitly vote for them knowing that they are very much pro-immigration. So I don't think this issue on immigration is not an issue that in Australia itself that can be predominantly solved by just white Australians. So that's why I welcome the diverse list of speakers, because I think you need to hear these voices, and they also need to then reach out into those communities and get them talking about issues with immigration as well. Because what I tell people all the time is mass immigration doesn't affect white people. I know we discussed it affecting white people in that sense, but mass immigration impacts all Australians, regardless of your color, because it impacts your ability to get houses, whatever it is. Like, all those issues impact, it's downstream. Every single Australian is impacted by that. So it's important that also immigrants understand their responsibility to promote policies and vote for politicians that obviously are aware of the impacts of mass immigration. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
Well, I think you're right. Those people are brave, and it's really interesting, Rukshan. I didn't purposely look for these people. They just came, and I was so happy to have them because it showcases part of the messaging that put Australia putting forward that is different to the others. And I think we have to understand that 90% of people that we know somebody who is a first or second generation immigrant that isn't white. And to put out a message that we need to send people home, it's just an unrealistic message. Whether you agree with it or not, it's never going to happen, because if someone's law-abiding, tax-paying, and they love this country, like, I don't care what colour their skin is, I want them to stay. Now, if they're a criminal, if they're burning the flag, And if they're disrespecting our country and our culture, then sure, send them home. But it's got to be an isolated situation, not a broad brush approach. And so you're right, these people are brave, and I have told them about the potential issues on the day that could arise, and they don't care. And I do really respect them for that. So I hope that this type of new messaging for a pro-Australia movement does open the gates for new people that are going to feel more comfortable to march with us because we are a more palatable approach, and we're more realistic with our demands, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Can I just say something before I move on? Is that in the comments, everybody, I know this isn't my show, but I'm just going to say, in the comments, everyone should put down a yes if they think Rukshan should speak in Melbourne, because Rukshan doesn't get on stage very often. He's always behind the camera.
No, look, I mean, I would love to speak about my love of Australia, but I think it's just I just see myself as a bit of a controversial figure in the sense of, because I do commentary on the whole issue as well, and sometimes people don't understand my commentary. Like, that's something I'm going through right now on my ex over the last couple of days, because I'm actually really worried about where this country is headed, and I'm actually really worried about the immigration problem as well, because, you know, unlike many people, you know, I'm kind of on the right of this issue, and I happen to be someone who's brown. And I happen to be someone who's very much in the, you know, conservative right side on these issues. And I happen to be, you know, oppose ideas like multiculturalism. Very openly, I oppose, you know, the idea of multiculturalism, because I think it's a problem. But, you know, it's not very common within, you know, people that look like me to be having these ideas and thoughts, because it benefits us. That's the truth. Like, I am privileged. I understand my privilege in this particular day and age with my skin color. And so it seems, again, to people, might seem a little bit weird, but I oppose those ideas because I think they're bad ideas, because I support, you know, certain Western values and ideals in Australia. So I argue for those things, but people don't necessarily understand it. And I think it becomes very controversial because I'm touching on very controversial topics. And, you know, one thing I found recently, Monica, is that white people in Australia, especially on the right, don't like to be criticized for, you know, political decisions, especially from a brown person. Like, that's what I'm finding out recently. A lot of conservatives, a lot of people on the right, I would say, are afraid to even jump in to support someone like me, because they just see, oh, well, he's brown. Yes, he's saying things that I agree with, but, you know, he's not white, so I can't really support him, because then the other white people who are angry with him, well, they're not going to be happy with me. And this is the reality of what I go through for my particular views on this issue. I guess it's
kind of like, oh, have I just frozen? Oh.
You're back.
You know what? It's kind of like if you're anti-gender ideology and you have a trans friend, it might be conflicting. It's a similar sort of situation. And look, I can somewhat understand it, but at the same time, Rukshan, you've done more than. Yeah. Well, you know, I just can't believe people. I just can't believe people who march next to you.
Yeah.
Are turning on you. It really bothers me.
Yeah. Because they're pretty much the whole thing that I'm seeing, that a lot of these kind of people that really believe in ideas like free speech and things like this that they carry on about will say is that, well, free speech doesn't apply to you because you're brown, so you're at a different level. So if your free speech extends beyond you know, just criticizing things that we allow you to criticize, as soon as you criticize white people that are, you know, related to white people, things that criticize white people, well, then that's beyond your free speech because you're a guest in this country. So how dare you? So this is kind of the approach that I've seen from people, which is, again, just insane, because you can't, it's contradiction. It's just contradictions around their ideas of free speech.
Isn't Thomas Sewell from New Zealand?
Yeah, but, you know, what they will say is that he is of Anglo-white stock, so it's different. Anglo-Celtic stock, so it's different. Yeah. But the reason that despite all of this, the reason I persist and I continue, Monica, is because what I was getting to is that I get to spend time in different communities, and I get to hear from immigrants at a level where they're more comfortable and more openly speaking, if that makes sense. It's very different when you hear from politicians and you hear the media narratives from immigrants, because it's very coached. And it's all very, you know, practiced. But in the real world, immigrants do talk a certain way, and a lot of them are not thinking about this issue like we're talking about this issue. For a lot of them, when I talk to them about immigration, it's like a blank face. They don't even know that this is a big problem that we're discussing. And for many of them, they don't even care. They don't even see they don't even see that it's going to impact them. They don't care about white supremacists. They don't care about the racial things that they're saying. They're just like, oh, they're just those stupid Nazis. And that's just the ordinary person. But I've, been able to talk to people who are a bit more higher up within these community groups and things. And they're just mocking me saying, Rukshan, like, you're a race traitor. And these are people I've known throughout my life. You're a race traitor. And, bring on these Nazis, bring on these extremists, because we want this. We want to accelerate. We want to get, closer relationships with governments. We want to fund things. And we have a certain agenda. And they do. And they're very, they're not open about it in public. But behind closed doors, this is what's happening. So I see the acceleration from these groups, and I understand what they're trying to achieve. And I understand that they want to paint all Australians as Nazis and white supremacists, because it helps them achieve their aims of completely dismissing this argument around immigration. Because they want to increase immigration, they want to keep it at the same levels, and they want more benefits, they want more rights, and they understand how to subvert the government. And these people are not messing around. Like, they're serious individuals. And, I would say even the Labor government's involved in this because it benefits them politically. This is what's happening. So I see it happening within these communities, and I get that sentiment, and I'm like, I can't keep quiet about it. I have to let people know that these are the things which they're dealing with, and people do to a large extent know as well. But I think it's important to hear it from someone that looks like me, because, it maybe adds a bit more weight to it, because I'm not trying to deceive people about this. But it's just that when I tell people about it, just because I'm brown and I'm telling them that this is what they're doing by using these white extremists to paint everyone like this, and they actually want this. They want the racism. They want the Nazism. They want that.
Yep.
Like they need that to achieve their aims.
It silences the genuine concerns. That's exactly what it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's perfect. And, it's perfect. It's what it is.
There's conspiracy theories that some of the leaders of the NSN are obviously, police operatives and things like that. And look, I've seen bits of information, but it doesn't really matter whether that's true or not. They're either doing what they're doing on purpose, or they're being used as useful idiots to bring in worse freedom of speech laws, lack of freedom of speech laws that are going to affect everybody else under the guise of being anti-Nazi. But I think your point about them actually doing the opposite of what they're claiming to do, which is raise awareness of the concerns of mass immigration for a long time, because they're so easy to slander in the media, that it makes the rest of us look bad. It's actually handing it to them on a platter.
That's right. Because I think there is because I do think, I'm just reading some of the comments as well, just to make it clear. I do think there is a normal everyday argument for protecting Australian identity, protecting white culture. I think those are things that can be done without it being racist. So I think it's important. Like, I believe in doing that. I believe in preserving Australian values, Australian culture. I even believe in protecting a dominance in terms of having a white Australian Western identity. I'm not really into all the racial stuff, but I understand to have a country, it's made up of its history and its people, and you can't just replace all of that and still have the same country. So there has to be a continuation of that. So I understand pushing all those ideas forward, but there's ways to do it. And if you're going to infuse Australians, everyday hardworking, Australians that you see at these protests, you're going to infuse them with Adolf Hitler Nazism and allow other people to paint them as Nazis, well, you're not doing your service any good cause whatsoever. It's actually achieving the complete opposite. And the point I've been trying to make is that these NSN type groups and these Nazis, that's exactly what they are achieving and what they are doing. And there are immigrant groups and immigrants in the background laughing at the whole situation and just saying, look at these white people. They are so stupid that even when it comes to this, they cannot help themselves but be these Nazis and just do the most ridiculous things. So no one supports them. Like, no one supports them. Like, immigrants are not going to vote for them or support them. And at the end of the day, if you don't get these votes and don't get these people on side, the policymakers, the politicians aren't going to be, movable in a certain way. There is a little bit of movement on that aspect for sure, because there's community disharmony. But over time, you end up getting people like Sadiq Khan as your mayor. Over time, you get people like the new guy in New York, Mandani, the new Muslim mayor of New York. Now, people don't think that these things are possible, but over time, these will happen. Like, I've spent a lot of time in Parliament House over the last couple of years working there, Monica, and I'm telling you, a lot of the politicians who are coming up are people of color. They look like me. A lot of the staffers who are working there are people of color, and they are infused within this whole system. And with that comes changes. And if you push this radical Nazi ideology, what you're going to get is this massive pushback that is going to be hard, because you're going to end up labeling everyone as crazy loony Nazis. And that's what I worry about. I don't care about the NSN exercising their Hitlerism and having the free speech, whatever. Like, yeah, hold your very clear marches and do whatever and fight with the police, whatever you want to do. But as soon as you start invoking that all Australians are like this, and my experience with Australians, and especially white Australians, throughout my entire life growing up, I very rarely ran into racism from people. These are people that understand, who they are. They are very confident people. They understand their history. They understand, a lot of them are Christians, and they have very set values. And these are not people who are Nazis. Like, for me to see today, for me to see that these white Australians are being labeled as Nazis because of these idiots, it's just shameful. I'm actually like upset about that, because I know that this is not who Australians are, but this is how they're being portrayed now by this group of idiots, and it's a shame.
Look what they did to Moira Deeming. She spent 2 years in court having to defend the fact that the Nazis turned up to an event that they weren't invited to, and they never apologized to her. They loved it. They loved the attention, and they patted themselves on the back. I mean. This is not a good way to get your message across. This is a way to distract good people like Moira Deeming for 2 whole years. The energy and the money that goes into that, and obviously she won, and she was, victorious, and it was amazing. But she shouldn't have had to do that, and they are the ones that caused that. And so, they're working against us is the point. Point of that. And can I just say so we've written on the website immigration reform. And what we mean by that is that, for example, this is kind of me speaking for my own opinions, not the whole team. But when my dad immigrated here, his dad in the 1960s, his dad had to get a job within a certain amount of time. He had to pay his own way within 3 weeks. Okay, they got a set amount of money to last them 2 weeks. They got help for 2 weeks, I think, and then they were on their own. Okay, so I think that new immigrants coming in should be vetted properly to make sure they've got money in the bank, for example, to make sure that they don't need to be on social housing and social money for 2 years, and they should have a checkup in 6 months' time and see, have they got a job? Are they learning English? Are their children in school? Etc., etc. And if they don't fit these certain criteria, they should be sent home, because you can't be given a safe home and take advantage of it. You wouldn't even do that for your teenage children. You wouldn't give them everything for free, because you want to teach them to appreciate life. It's kind of the same sort of thing. If you let immigrants in to take advantage of our social resources, they're going to, as human nature would, continue to take advantage. If we set a precedence and say, no, you have this period of time, and, when they sign the Australian citizen certificate, it has the Australian values. We could have a system where if you break any of these particular values, I mean, governments love to write new legislation, okay? It would take them 2 weeks to write some new legislation with some parameters around what you can and can't do in this country. And if you break those rules, you get sent home. Maybe your direct family do as well. When you have criminals breaking into homes more than once a week, for example, send them home. Like, if you do these things, then people will learn that they can't get away with things, and they'll stop taking Australia for granted. And I think that's very rational and realistic.
I get what you're saying. Again, just to put some reality onto this, there's definitely reform to immigration, and, setting parameters around what type of immigrants come and their requirements in terms of having to show money or work here, and those things I think are very important. You can't just have people turning up and then going on Centrelink. Like, that's kind of what we have going on right now. And the truth is, right, we live in a connected world, and what I know from seeing again in different communities what's happening, they already know about the whole welfare system in Australia before they even get here. So they already understand how to exploit the thing because, their friends have come. There's online Facebook groups, TikTok groups. We've all seen the videos of people overseas talking about how to exploit Australia. Like, that's what's happening now.
I've seen it firsthand. When I was younger, I was friends with people who had empty apartments in the city, in the commission housing, and they would just go and stay there on the weekends. And there was and that's just one example, and that was firsthand. I've been in those apartments. I know it happens. So that kind of makes me feel sick to my stomach because there's people on the streets sleeping on the streets, you know.
And that exploitation now is on like steroids, right? It's next level, that exploitation now. And you mix that in with the university system, which is, very greedy. They love the cash flow that they get from international students. Like, I don't blame, like, a lot of people when they talk about these issues, they blame immigrants or they blame the students and stuff. I've moved away, especially from blaming these students. They have no idea really. As in, most of them pay a lot of money to come here, to exploit the system, but they're also being exploited by the government and the university system, who are making a lot of money off them. I've seen the condition that some of these students live in. These are share houses with like 10, 12 of them, like in little rooms. And this is kind of the international education experience in Australia, is literally just a farm of bringing people in for money, and then people live like crap while they're here. And yes, it impacts all of us. So there's all these kind of cross problems that we have with different sectors, normal immigration, skilled immigration, as well as university students coming. And then we also have, refugees, asylum seekers, all into that mix. But one of the major overriding things that I see, Monica, when you talk about something like reform, is that without assimilation, without a push for a national identity, even for the people that are already here, it creates this country where there's no need for people to integrate, if you understand, into the Australian value system. There's literally no need for people to be a part of Australian society, to exist in Australia, right? And as an example, when my parents came here in the 90s, they were not connected to their families overseas. There's no internet, things like this, right? So they're very much, reliant on society within Australia, to going to ESL, learning languages, getting jobs, putting us through schooling, all these things, right? Today, you can land here from a different country. You go into a little enclave area. All the school system is run by, people that look like you, that speak your language. Maybe they haven't even learned English, right? All the resources, all the jobs, they'll give you jobs. Everything is handled within your own community, if that makes sense. So your interactions with the wider Australian community is very little when you first get here. Then add to that, you have activists from the left who really go into these communities and start brainwashing them very early on to hate Australia. That's very much a part of what's going on. They brainwash these new immigrants, right, to push them into a certain direction. And again, it happens in the community groups as well. It happens unknowingly. The immigrants, they have no idea. They're just like a new country. They're settling down, and they're being told all these things, right, by their churches and their temples and things like this. I see this.
Social workers and whatnot.
Yeah, I see this. That's why if you're wondering why the politicians are putting on like turbans and going to Hindu festivals or going to Eid festivals and things like this, is because they need to give grants to the religious organizations, because they then will brainwash the rest of their people that come there to vote a certain way without them even knowing that's happening. So a lot of these people they don't really understand that they're being put into this little system, right? But what I'm getting
that's why in my promotional video, I made it very clear that this isn't about immigrants in terms of me versus you or me versus someone else.
Yeah.
It's the government. That's the point you were getting at, obviously.
That's what I was getting at.
The government,
immigrants don't know.
If the government wants to do something, then they would do it. They can do it like this. So I think part of the whole divide and conquer strategy that's used across, throughout history is to turn us against each other. They want me to hate you, Rukshan. They want me to hate the Free Palestine people. They want the Free Palestine people to hate us. And what they do is they highlight in the media the Nazis of the right and the flag burners of the left, so that we think that all Free Palestine people are flag burning anti-Australians, and they think that all pro-Australian people are racist Nazis, okay? And I think that 95% of both marchers are probably reasonable people that we could all have a coffee with and find some common ground with. Yep. But it is in the mainstream media's best interest for us to collectively hate each other because, one, they get unlimited content because they get all this violence on the streets and things like that. But number two, they get to use these extremisms to bring in new legislations that limit freedom of speech for the rest of us, and to bring in legislations that limit freedom of protest, which is really important. And we're already seeing that in Sydney. We couldn't have a stage in the park. We couldn't have the event on the streets the same day as the Free Palestine people, even though they've been owning the Sunday streets for the last 2.5 years. We couldn't have our march because we might clash because of the violence that has been happening in Melbourne and things like that. The government love this stuff. They froth over this stuff, and so does the mainstream media. So my message to everyday Australians is that your neighbour is not the problem. It's the government, and it's no offence to the mainstream media. There are some good people there, but they are pitting us against each other. And the moment that we realise that we're not the problem, we could actually have a much bigger movement. And that's why it's so important, I think, to have speakers involved that aren't just about lockdowns and, you know, vaccinations, all the things like that. And you know what a funny thing is that I don't even know what they think about those topics. And I love that I don't know, because we're moving on, and we need the broader Australians, immigrants of all different colours that love Australia and also want immigration reform. We need to work with them, you know, and I hope that people that are in the Free Palestine marches that still love Australia, because, by the way, you can be both. Surprise, surprise, you can. And I hope that they even feel comfortable to come to our rally, because if you care a lot about Palestinians, I respect your right to go to those marches. If you're willing to take up a Sunday to march for something you believe in, I respect you for that. But come to ours as well if you love Australia and you want a better future for you and your children. That's how I'm trying to approach it.
No, fair enough. And I think very aspirational, Monica. I don't know what will come of that particular request. I have certain views on all of that. But I get what you're saying more broadly. But going back to, you know, these groups, and you're right, we can't hold individuals responsible, but I do hold certain leaders responsible. I do hold certain community organisation leaders responsible. I think they have a responsibility, obviously, to work in the interests for the betterment of Australia. All of them do by default. We should not be working for the interests and the betterment of any kind of foreign type, communities here as the first go-to thing that they do. It has to always be Australia first. That's my personal belief.
Well, leaders are different. We don't really have that. Attendees, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we don't really have that. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying in terms of the issues that we see in society, because there's definitely issues which are caused by people who are, you know, immigrants in this country. Whether that in Victoria, whether that's crime, there's definitely issues. And like I said, with the current crime wave in Victoria, with a lot of African crime gangs, little young kids doing this, I haven't really seen the communities really step up and take that responsibility for those kids in the manner I think that they should, based on what we're seeing happening.
And on that topic, just as a side note, I have a theory about the African gangs, and it's one to take a little bit of blame away from them, but also still address the issue. Is that I think if their parents were immigrants and the children are first generation immigrants, so they were born here, I don't think their parents understood what our society was, what our culture was. And in the villages in Africa, for example, the village would bring up the children together. Like, you could tell off another person's child in an African village. You do it together. And it's safe for your children to roam the streets in the village at nighttime because everyone's looking out for each other. Then they moved to Australia and no one told them how different it was. So they let their teenagers roam the streets at nighttime, and, you know, they should have clicked on, obviously. But culturally, I think that some of them didn't mean to not know that they're going to create gangs and they're going to do these types of things.
You are right. There's an element.
I don't think it's not all blame on the parents, you know, and I think they should have been taught these things.
And I know there's a bit more of that community element of raising children in those parts of the world, but there's also a justice element that happens in that part of the world as well. And I know we might not agree with how justice is handed out in that part of the world, but there's usually consequences to this type of criminal activity in that part of the world. If it becomes a problem for those communities, they will take care of those kids. Trust me, they will.
Yes.
Whereas in Australia, what we do is we, put them in bubble wrap, slap on the wrist, or if you're under 18, or we can't keep you in jail, we're going to bail you out each time. So these kids keep doing crimes. They have become tougher in Victoria because we're leading up to an election, so I don't want to get too much into that.
Good.
I do want to jump into this video that you put out today. I'm going to play it.
Can I just say while I remember something?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh wait, what was I going to say? Oh, I was just going to say something also different about our events, if you're thinking of coming, is because our messaging is not extreme enough for the likes of NSN, Nazis, etc., they will not be coming to our event to support it. Full stop. If any of them come to our event, it will be 100% intentionally to agitate. They went to the other events because they agreed with the messaging. So that's why the police and the security that we will have on the day will have more powers to remove people that are agitating because we know why they're there. So it's really important that people know that the NSN don't support us. So they're either not going to come, or if they do come, it's going to be obvious who they are. And the police have really, really strict instructions, and they agree, and they will help us a lot to remove anybody on either side who is agitating. And we have a really great relationship with them, and they actually appreciate what we're doing. So I just wanted everyone to know that.
Yeah. So just to make it clear, so for Sydney on Saturday, 29th of November, that's at Balmore Park to the town hall. So you're starting at Balmore Park at 12 p.m.
Yes. Speeches on the steps of town hall. Yeah.
Okay. And then on Saturday, the Sunday the 30th of November in Melbourne, starts at Flinders Street to Flagstaff Gardens.
Yes.
And so again, you touched on this earlier, but the confusion over the 2 days, it was originally meant to be on the same day. What happened again?
Yeah, so in Sydney, we couldn't have a stage in the park, so we decided we had to use the town hall as a stage. We needed a stage, you know. And at that time, we had Jacinta Price speaking, and I'm like, I'm not letting Jacinta Price speak on the back of a ute. So we decided to use the town hall. And then the police said you can't do it on Sunday because of the Free Palestine people. So we decided to change the day. And now everything's good. So it's kind of, you know, there's never been a protest march event like this where it's kind of like a rock concert where there's 2 different days. So you can go to both marches.
Yeah. I honestly think, you know, one of the most effective things that people could really do, this is, again, putting my activist hat on. I don't normally do this, but you could have a central one destination for Australians together, like kind of what happened in Canberra, that type of momentum. I think those are really impactful as well. When you see people make for that. I think there'll be a time for that because when you see people make an effort from all around the country to turn up in one location, and you just have this groundswell of Australians from all backgrounds just there, it's very impactful for the political class.
Like what happened in London, you know.
Like what happened in London, of course.
You can't get those images if it's spread all across the world.
That's right.
You know, we're going to see how this movement goes, and of course we'll look into that. But you should move on because, by the way, if I disappear, it's because my battery is dead.
Is dead?
And I can't charge it because this is plugged into the charging port.
Okay, cool. Let me jump into the next one quickly before you have to go. So this is a video you put out today.
Let me see if I can check I've got 25%. I'm good.
Easy. You're good.
Yeah. So there has been a lot of media around...
Wait, let me just start this again.
So there has been a lot of media around far-right extremist groups in Australia because the leader of the NSN, which is the National Socialist Network, a self-proclaimed Nazi group, the leader Thomas Sowell recently got granted bail, and of course it was all over the media. And I've also noticed a few articles asking questions on how can we stop the growth of these types of groups, and there's been think tanks and different episodes about it, and I just wanted you guys to know that I know the answer. So if you are mainstream media, or if you are in government right now, or if you are part of a think tank, listen up because I have the answer. Firstly, stop giving them so much media attention. I mean, shock horror, giving them more attention makes them bigger. Secondly, why don't you give attention to moderate conservatives like me and like the group that's behind the Put Australia First movement. We're having rallies on the 29th and 30th of November. And if you look at the website, all of our ideas are rational, normal, and 85% of Australians would at least understand what we're talking about and probably even agree with us. If you actually give people like us a platform, it will stop people from going to the extremes. The reason why the environment is perfect for extremism right now is because the government is doing such a terrible job. They're not listening to people, they're not doing anything for people, and they're actually doing things that are hurting people, and they're completely ignoring the voices of democracy. So extremism flourishes in that environment on both sides. If you want to stop them growing, give people like us more attention so that everyday Australians who are concerned about the future of this country has somewhere to have their voices heard with people like us instead of people like them. Okay? And we are available for media contact. Just email us at contact@putaustraliafirst.com. That's contact@putaustraliafirst.com. And a spokesperson from one of the states will be happy to talk to you politely and respectfully, because we need mainstream media and any type of platform to give Australians a safe place to voice their genuine concerns, because if they don't do it with us, they're going to do it with the extremes on either side. So I hope you've heard the message loud and clear.
So just before I ask you a question, I think my personal view on what you said at the start about not giving them attention, I agree with you broadly, because we do give a lot of attention to the NSN and what's going on. I think right now there is a thing where a lot of us are trying to raise awareness. Like, I think I'm guilty of it as well. I talk about them a lot, but only out of the attempt to raise awareness. The media do it, I guess, for different reasons, because they're asked about it and it's a salacious topic to discuss. So it's been in the news last couple of days based on what politicians have said and not said and what they've done around certain individuals with the NSN. But yeah, I do get, we kind of we're feeding the beast, right? Is that what you're saying? We're feeding the beast?
Look, when I was being attacked a lot in the media, I remember that feeling. And I remember feeling like you guys are idiots, because even when you talk badly about me, it still grows my platform every time. Every time. There is no such thing as bad publicity. So, and that's true. So the way I see it is, of course, you need to update the people on news. It is newsworthy. I understand it. But to just write so many articles about it, some with really little content of any, severity, just to write an easy article, just don't be lazy with it to give them more attention. You know what I mean? But I think it serves the media very well to have this content, because it's easy content writing for them. So I understand both sides, but you get it too. There's two ways to look at it.
But and the second point that you made in that video, I think, is sadly something that's not going to come true. And I don't think they want to speak to moderates when it comes to this issue. I don't think, they might here and there, but overall, I don't think, the media, the government are really interested in making this a mainstream issue the way that it should be. They've always portrayed any type of, discussions around immigration, going back all the way to someone like Pauline Hanson a long time ago, as being racist. And they've done this now for decades, right? So do they really want to hear from the moderates, like a moderate voice like you? Like, that's what people say. Like, you're not going to be able to move the needle. That's what the NSN would say, that someone like you, being a moderate, can't really push this forward because they're not going to pay attention to you. They're just going to ignore you. And you need the theatrics and you need the stunts that come with the NSN to make it a talking point.
Yeah, look, that's a fair point. However, this is the way I see it, and again, I could be wrong, of course, but I think that the pro-Australia patriotic movement is growing. It's growing rapidly, and you're seeing Australian flags all over the place. I mean, I just see it in my own life, and then I see it online as well. If I post a picture of an Australian flag, like I posted a picture of my dad raising a flag in our front yard, it got like 600,000 views. Like, it's insane. And I don't have a massive platform. There was only 60,000 people on that Facebook page. So I think the media know this, and those who understand algorithms know that the Australia First momentum is growing. So I'm wondering if at some point the mainstream media and or politicians or whoever is going to have to pick a group to support, and I'm hoping that I'm providing that platform. And when I say me, I'm saying the team. Okay. Now, the criticism is, and I even heard it myself in that video, it's kind of cringy to watch your own video, to be honest. But the criticism would be, oh, Monica, you're just an attention seeker. You just want more media attention. And look, what I want to say to you guys is I've had plenty of attention in my life, and to be honest, I don't need more. And but if getting attention helps the pro-Australian movement be legitimised, I'm happy to be there for it. But also with the Put Australia First team, we have many different people involved, and so we can share the load in terms of publicity. And the media can't attack one person for the entire movement. That's why we've shared it with other faces, so that it's not all about me, it's not all about Morgan or Stuart Bonds or whatnot. So that's why we've done it that way. And I hope that we can just keep growing and give the mainstream media no reason to attack us, but every reason to actually celebrate us. And I will say that I have had positive media attention when I had my court case, and you know what happened? I got a massive bill at the end, $250,000 after winning my case. The media felt sorry for me, okay? Point blank. And A Current Affair did a show about it, and it was very friendly. And so I have hope in some individuals in the mainstream media. I don't hate mainstream media completely, and I always answer their emails, and I'm always polite with them because I see that they are valuable to society. And if they attack me, well, then it's still publicity. So either way, it's good for me. But yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And look, I think circling back to where all this started, mass immigration, this topic that we're discussing, is becoming a political issue. So I don't know if you've seen the polls, but One Nation, Pauline Hanson's One Nation, continues to rise in the polls. They continue to, I guess, get people maybe who are more liberal voters going towards One Nation, and their percentage of, voter percentage is growing, and it looks like they're going to pick up more seats come the next federal election. So do you think it's going to be these minor parties like One Nation that might potentially be the saviors on this particular issue? Because, again, Liberals, they kind of come across as Labor light. It's almost the same thing, and they don't want to go too far into it. Do you think a party like One Nation could be something that people could get behind as an alternative to push this forward? Because, again, what we said at the start of all of this, Monica, is that we need a political solution. It can't just be people on the streets. There has to be moves made in the political arena. So what do you think about One Nation, getting this recognition amongst the people and moving up as a dominant party on the immigration issue? Do you think they could be the X factor?
Well, the way I see it is that, there's a nice little phrase that I use. It's join major, vote minor. Join major, vote minor. And what I mean by that is you can join and infiltrate the Liberal Party. It's hardly any energy at all. I've seen it done. It can be done, and I have that campaign, replacethem.com. And then you can still vote for One Nation until, if the infiltration works in the Liberal Party, until the Liberal Party are who they should be, then you could start voting for them if you want. But you join the major party to actually strategically take over the major party, and you still vote for One Nation because they are a better party. The way I see it, idealistically, is that the Liberal Party become the Conservative Party they are supposed to be if they actually follow their belief statement, which is beautiful. It's all about freedom and everything like that. If they were actually what they were supposed to be, they would be a great party. And One Nation could work closely with the Liberal Party and be an ally, just like the Greens are with Labor. The Greens support Labor. One Nation should be supporting the Liberal Party. But when you think about, for example, America and Trump getting re-elected, he didn't start a new party. He joined an existing party. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with Reform UK. If Reform UK actually become a major party, then that will kind of blow my whole strategy out of the water, which is that you have to join a major party in order to have political influence. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. But Rukshan, I have worked on the polling booths and in volunteering for minor parties in the last 2 federal elections and other state elections. And I've seen really well-intentioned Australians get completely burnt out to the point where they're never going to volunteer again. You've got candidates who put their hand up to run. They spend their own money. They get burnt out. Their family suffers because of it. They never volunteer again. They're finished, okay? Also, when someone becomes a candidate for One Nation or for someone else, they can't become a member of the Liberal Party for like 3 years. So it actually disqualifies those people from even joining a major party, even if they wanted to. So after seeing all of that, the energy versus reward ratio is completely out of whack, in my opinion, at the moment for minor parties. So I will never be volunteering for, at the moment, I will not be volunteering for any minor parties, and I am advocating to infiltrate the Liberal Party, and then we can go from there. But I'll still vote One Nation.
I get you. I've seen you put up a video about that previously that people can probably check out if they search your social media. And I know that's received controversial commentary as well from others who've had different views on your tactics, Monica. I don't want to get into that today. I do want to end off today. I do want to end off our show today just by asking you again, going back to, there's obviously multiple movements now holding these mass immigration rallies. Do you think there will ever be a time where these movements can get together and do something constructive together?
Well, I love this idealistic idea of everyone should work together kind of thing. And I agree with that on an ideological basis. But I draw the line at Nazis and people associated with Nazis. I won't work with them. I also won't work with people who swear and carry on like lunatics online. You can't trust people like that. I'm sorry. But the great thing is that the attendees who attend these marches are all pretty much amazing people, So, I will work with anyone who is reliable and professional and, not associated with Nazis, basically. But, I hold a standard for myself. I never name call online. I might question organisations, but I'll never name names. And I'll never point the finger at anybody, and I'll never make a video slagging off anybody. And people who do that, they kind of go down on my list of people that I would want to work with. However, I believe people deserve a second chance. And, if someone has a genuine apology, then it could go a very, very long way. But I think that, seriously, Rukshan, things need to get worse for people to work together. It's just how it always has been. You remember with COVID, everyone was so desperate that I don't remember any infighting. I don't remember anything like that because we were desperate and we were suffering, And now we have a little bit more headspace to have our own opinions and to point the fingers at so-and-so and so-and-so. And reality is humans struggle to work together. And I will say as well that the right conservatives struggle a lot more to work together because, this is just my opinion, our values are kind of that we're brought up with our values. They're inbuilt in us through childhood. And so as soon as someone is not anti-abortion, for example, or, even though you might agree on every other topic, that's it. They won't work together because of that. And I understand from an ideological background, but because of that, the right do suffer. The conservatives suffer to work. They can't work together because of these morals that are just like ingrained in our heart. It makes us who we are, which is great. But the left, their values are a little bit more changeable, just like their gender. And so they can work together a lot easier. And I'm jealous of, of
well, look,
how
I will
take that.
I will take the right not being communist and being more individualistic any day. But one more time, Monica, if you could just give us a plug for your event that's coming up for people that are watching, and then we'll close it off today.
Great. So on Saturday, the 29th of November in Sydney, and on Sunday, the 30th of November in Melbourne, we have the same rally. I'll be at both of them. And we are asking for immigration reform, freedom from an enforced digital ID, and affordable energy, because we believe that these are the three biggest topics affecting Australians, affecting our cost of living and housing crisis and things like that. So this is going to be a safe environment for you to bring your children, and there will be no extremism on the stage, I can guarantee that. And we have everything in place to make sure we have a great day. And it is going to be a celebration. It's not going to be morbid. We're not going to be yelling and screaming at police officers or anything like that. It's just going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be music. And it's the first of many. So please come along to support us, because if there's not enough people there, we might be a little bit discouraged. But if there's a lot of people there, then we'll be really encouraged to diversify into different things. So thanks for having me on, Rukshan. And I hope to see you there in Melbourne.
Thank you for your time, Monica. It was great to chat with you today. Guys, Thanks for watching and joining me for an episode of Rukshan on X. I hope to do more stuff like this, and maybe Monica, you can join me for other episodes as well in the future to chat about the news and what's happening in our country. And those of you who are not following me, guys, you can check me out on X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Real Rukshan. Come on X. I'm causing a lot of drama on X at the moment, fighting with Nazis and things like this. It's very entertaining. You might get offended,
Me too,
but
yeah.
you know, after listening to me today, guys, you might know a little bit more of my views. And yes, Monica as well. You can find her on social media, Reignite Democracy. I believe that's the tags you go by, right? It's not your name, right? It's Reignite Democracy. Is that correct?
Yeah, on Twitter. Yeah.
Find her there. And tomorrow I'll be on with Avi Yemeni for the Opposition podcast, followed by my show on Wednesday as well. All right, everyone, have a good night and thank you.